Well, hello my friends, we meet again. It has been a while, where should we begin? Over the last year or so, since I really started making these YouTube videos, I've spent a lot of time with Chuck Schilderner's music. A lot. So before I got on with more death deep dives, I thought I would put together a little list of some of the insights and stuff that I've learned by studying his music so intensely over the last year. So let's not waste any time. Let's begin with lesson 1. Drums are the most important part. The first thing that I gathered was the drums really make the music. Now, of course, this is a rather obvious statement, but I think it is especially true for metal bands. Death in particular gives us many examples of this, but the biggest one is the change from spiritual healing to human. And, no shade thrown at Bill Andrews at all. He is a fine and extremely solid drummer. I think his drumming on Leprosy is excellent. However, the addition of the brilliant Sean Reinert, rest in peace, of Cynic for the Human album immediately elevated the music leagues above spiritual healing, despite the fact that in all honesty, the riffs and songwriting between the two albums are pretty similar. So here we can see how a really great and brilliant drummer can immediately change the overall sound and feel of a band's music. I mean, Human was only really released a year after Spiritual Healing, and it changes Death's feel from one which is pretty much straightforward death metal to one which is extremely progressive and technical sounding. And of course, I know there are other differences between these two albums, notably Paul Masvidal and Steve DiGiorgio, but the drums are what really is the biggest change for me. And this is really evidenced by the fact that the first track on Human, which is a flattening of emotions, Chuck begins the song by giving Sean Reinert a whole drum intro, which he had never done before. It makes a grand statement that this is an entirely different band and shows the confidence that he has in his new drummer. And as such, for the following album, Chuck landed the almighty Gene Hoglan, who was given several drum intros of his own on Individual Thought Patterns, as well as on Symbolic. And then, of course, Richard Christie, whose drumming on The Sound of Perseverance almost single-handedly elevates the album to technical and progressive death metal royalty. In fact, without the crazy and intricate drumming that he would do on this album, it would pretty much just sound like Judas Priest. Oh wait, you can see exactly how that works here on their cover. Gene Hoglan himself even remarked on this, stating that in an interview that a lot of the riffs on Symbolic were more traditional metal and that it was up to him to up the intensity.
The riffs were not all that technical. A lot of guitarists could sit down, play a lot of that Symbolic material just right out the gate. And so that's where I tried to make the drums pretty exciting on Symbolic and try to come with some approaches that had yet to be tried.
And Gene is absolutely right, that the drums really make the album, make the metal. So the lesson to learn here is pay very close attention to your drums. They influence the energy, the vibe, the style, the swagger, and intensity of your metal, and beyond having your guitars and vocals distorted, the drums are probably the most important part of a metal band's sound. Always, if possible, surround yourself with the best musicians that you can. That is what Chuck Schilderner did. So lesson to learn here is pay very close attention to your drums and make sure that the drums are elevating your sound, not holding you back. Lesson 2. The lyrics should contain the title of the song. Chuck Schilderner would almost always put the title of the song in the lyrics, or name the song after a line in the song. Of course, I'm not Chuck, so I don't know how he did it, but I just know that basically every single Death and Control Denied song does this. The only ones which don't are, of course, the instrumental songs, Sacred Serenity and Together as One. These two songs say the title in the chorus, but they are separated into two different lines. And the only singular song which does not say the entire title is See Through Dreams, which he only says through dreams, doesn't say see through. So it kind of counts, right? Close enough. So literally every song really does this. And why is this important? Why is naming the song after a line in the lyrics important? Well, the first thing that a new listener will do before hearing your song or listening to it is they will either be told the title or they will read the title on Spotify or the back of the CD, whatever. So basically, this just acts as a natural hook. It is the title of the song. Listeners are going to be looking for a reason why the song is titled that, and by hearing the title spoken or sung or scream, they will latch onto that. You will hear it. It stands out to you. You know, hearing the title in the song will perk up the attention and you'll pay attention to it just a little bit more. Next time you listen to a song for the first time, pay attention and see if you can pick out when you first hear the title. You will sort of intrinsically sort of perk up when you hear it. And, you know, of course, I know that Death is not the only band to have done this. Of course, far, far from it. I just find it very, very curious that basically every single song that Chuck wrote and published has done exactly that. It is an easy way to let the listener know that this is the hook of the song and that for them to pay attention. So the lesson to learn here is don't be a 2005 post-hardcore band. Name your songs after lyrics in the song and you just have a free hook, basically. Lesson 3, play with the design of the guitar. All right, so we are here. We got the Ibanez Geo with DiMarzio X2N plugged into the Solidus Valve State clone. So we got some nice tone going on. But yeah, let's take a look at Zero Tolerance here. So Zero Tolerance is cool as essentially he plays the exact same riff, the exact same way, but just moves it up a string. So yeah, really, really cool effect that it has there when you just simply move up an entire fourth, basically, right? All these strings are separated by a fourth. Perfect fourth, right? So what happens there is that when you move up into a new key, right? This first riff is in D minor, right? Second time it plays around, it's in G minor. Right, so it's really cool, and it's a really cool effect. It sort of it almost sounds like a siren. I think sirens go up a fourth, down a fourth, you know? Amusing emotion of light. Chuck Schuldiner was a self-taught guitarist, and as such, he approaches playing the guitar in a way that is somewhat differently from someone who has maybe taught music on a piano. He always tuned to D standard, and normally most of the songs are in the key of D minor, so that would be the open lowest string on a 6-string guitar tuned to D standard. But frequently, and this is not limited to Zero Tolerance, he will simply just play in G minor for a section, and that is just the open note of the second lowest string on a guitar. Now, due to the way a guitar works, minor keys on these two open strings share all notes besides one. G minor contains this E flat note, and D minor contains the E natural. This works extremely well in metal, as when you are playing in D minor, playing the first fret, or E flat, or which would be the flattened second, is a very typical metal sound, and he plays that quite often. So swapping in between these two keys is almost seamless, as all the notes are pretty much shared. So, lesson here, don't fight the guitar, embrace it, and play with its idiosyncrasies. Try moving your riffs up and down strings and just see what happens. Learn to play with the guitar. Real quick, if you're enjoying this video, make sure you leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you all. Thanks. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I think that's my favorite riff of all time. Lesson 4. Do not chase trends. Look at what others are doing and then do the opposite. It is very clear that Chuck remained very aloof to the broader death metal scene and actually made active attempts to distance himself from it while still attempting to be part of it, musically speaking at least. Like, see this line from the song Out of Touch. Trapped in a lost world of brutality, so weak are the ones that must rely on shock to push the so-called force that inspires their call. To be extreme, so it seems, is a mental crutch to cover up for those that are completely out of touch. And you know, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater here. If you already have an established sound, don't completely abandon it. Instead, look at your peers, What are they doing? Are they all doing similar things? How about you do something that's very different?
I'm trying to incorporate all my personal tastes, influences, and stuff, and let them come out. I'm not into holding back, trying to live up to a certain reputation of being the heaviest. I'm not out for that. I'm into a lot of different types of music,
Chuck Schuldiner musical evolution is a perfect example of this sort of looking at what others are doing and then doing something different. It started with spiritual healing, but lyrically, Chuck really carved himself out a very unique niche with his lyrics starting on Human. Both Human and individual thought patterns are still extremely aggressive sounding and are very, very heavy. Yet lyrically, they deviate a lot from the death metal norm substantially. And they begin to deviate a little bit in sound as well. Then, starting on Symbolic, he not only changes the lyrical themes, but the music evolved to become much, much more melodic. Sounding much more like melodic death metal that was beginning to come out in Europe, rather than a lot of the more grotesque, slamming death metal of his peers. And then again on the Sound of Perseverance. If everyone is doing deep death growls, why not go for high-pitched, screaming shrieks? Always progress. Movement is life. Stagnation is creative death. So the lesson to learn here is look around at your peers. If everyone is doing 8-string Digitech whammy pedal abusing pick scraping riffs, then do something different. Of course, the true challenge here is riding that balance, and Chuck Schuldiner's music really rode this balance and this fine line extremely well, as evidenced by the very, very excellent progression in sound, lyrics, and complexity that exists between all his albums. Lesson 4B, his song structures, which I won't repeat here, but make sure you go check out my video on this after this one. Lesson 5, write for the song, not for the genre. Despite being a foundational part of the death metal scene, Death never used a single blast beat. They used one on one of their early demos, yet they were never included after. Although the closest they came was a small section in To Forgive Is to Suffer, which I think is very important to the foundation of technical death metal, but to me that's more of like a skank beat rather than a true blast. So why is this? Death metal and blast beats go together like my channel and Glazing Death. Well, the fact that they did use them and then never use it after means that not using blast beats was a very conscious choice. A conscious decision by Chuck to not have blast beats in his music. I'm sure that the drummers that he hired could perform them, so why didn't he do that then? To me, Chuck's music was never that sort of dissonance-drenched wall of noise, and even in the fastest and most chaotic moments, it still retained a semblance of that sort of traditional metal sensibilities, I guess, if that makes any sense to you. So, simply put, the songs did not call for blast beats, so he didn't put them in. Simply put, he did not need blast beats to sound fast, heavy, or dark. He wrote music which carried the momentum and didn't need them. The songs were the focus, not how fast the band could play. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love tech death, all those blast beats is excellent. Instead, the drums matched the music, and he didn't feel enticed by the scene around him to include them just for the sake of including them. So the lesson to learn here is that even if other bands are doing a certain thing, you do not need to include it if the song does not call for it. If your song sounds full and complete without a breakdown, well, don't add one. Not every song has to have every bit of the genre in which you find yourself playing. Lesson here, write for the song, not for the genre. I've been Varvis. Thank you so much for watching.